I'd like to give you the opportunity to ask any question you might have. I mentioned that we've been in 22 nations in Latin America, so I can tell you about something about every country in Latin America. I think Bob Young can too, from his many experiences, and really do appreciate Bob and Jan and their lives and what they have given for the Latin American people over the years, over many years.
Tell us how many mission groups have gone, how many mission teams have gone out from Baxter over the time since 2003, because I don't have that number anymore.
24 mission groups. Some of them are not functioning as you would expect. They fulfill the mission and are no longer needed in some of those places. So I mentioned the Trinidad work in Cuba, where they've had 100 baptisms in their first year and are averaging 2 a week. That's really off the charts, and that's unusual. It's very unusual for Cuba that kind of response would be. There is another church mission team that really is a stellar mission team in Cúcuta, Colombia, and it's right on the border with Venezuela. Initially, they did a lot of relief work because the Venezuelans were fleeing from that country, and so they were taking in a lot of people, providing food for the people who were, in a sense, refugees from Venezuela. About 15% of the population of Venezuela, if not more, have left. But it's kind of like Acts chapter 8. They went everywhere preaching the word. And so the Venezuelan Christians who have left Venezuela, it's amazing. They're going all over Latin America, and to, like Argentina, is a very difficult place to share the gospel. We were there for 15 years, and it was tough. It's like evangelizing in Europe. At least in Buenos Aires, where we were, the majority are either Spaniard or Italian mix. And so they have that attitude of the European, and they're not real receptive to the gospel. But there they are, these Venezuelans in these churches in Argentina, and helping the Argentines grow and evangelize their own people. So that's exciting. I was in Quito, Ecuador, and on all the Quito, people are short like me, and even shorter. And but then on the street corners, there were big tall guys standing around. And I said, what's going on? Who are these folks? They are obviously not from Ecuador. They're Venezuelans. And they were selling anything they could sell to just have food. You know, they were in a dire situation as individuals who have left in great numbers Venezuela. We have presently in our school, let's see, we've got a couple that are Ney and Jumari, and they're from Venezuela. We have Luis Correa. He's a single student. He left and went to Colombia. His family did, from Venezuela. And who else? Danielle, teacher there at Baxter. He is doing a really good work as a teacher there at Baxter, but he's a Venezuelan. The school has got 13 different nations, and next year it's going to be 15. We've got additional nations that are be a part of the student body. Chileans. We've not had Chileans in a long time, and so we're really excited to get Chileans. It's way down there. It's right beside Argentina. Chile is. We went there in 1981, and we were in a campaign. The campaigns were called the Global Campaigns, and these campaigns went to the major cities around Latin America. The campaign group were students who formed a chorus at Abilene Christian University, Baxter students in their 4th year, and area missionaries. And it was something else there in Santiago, Chile, in the center of Santiago. I just started talking to folks, and then the crowd came. I ended up street preaching to 50 people on the side of the street there, all under the watchful eye of Pinochet. Some of you know about Pinochet. Pinochet was a ruthless dictator there in Chile for some time, for several decades. The region was under the thumb of many dictators in the 80s, but we had 93 baptisms. Even though it was not a real easy political situation, we were able to baptize 93 people there in Santiago, Chile. And that campaign, known as Global Campaigns, went throughout the major cities and really put the Church of Christ on the map throughout those major cities, which is hard to do in a big urban area. It's really hard to evangelize in an urban area. And so that really helped the churches of Christ in Latin America. Yeah. Oh, I mentioned we have two nationalities, Equatorial Guinea, right? Or Guinea. Guinea is the word in English. It's the only nation in Africa that speaks Spanish. And we're going to have one guy come in. He's 30-something, and he was going to bring his wife, but the father of the bride-to-be turned down his dowry that he was going to give for his bride, and so he's coming single. So this will be a cultural adjustment for him coming into Latin America. And it'll be different for him. It'll be a great cultural experience for our students. And when you have that many nationalities in a small school like this, I mean, there's 75 students in the school, but you've got a bunch of them from Nicaragua, a bunch of them from Honduras, you got a bunch from Colombia lately, now from Venezuela, Cuba, Mexico. But when they get together, they're interesting conversations, because what is a four-letter word in your country in Colombia is not a four-letter word in your country of Honduras. I mean, that's an example of kind of a thing that, and so they're always kidding each other. How can you use that word? Yeah. Well, it's a fine word to use in my country, but in their country, the differences there culturally that they have. You find the differences culturally of the foods they eat. We think Hispanics eat hot food, spicy food, right? Not in Honduras. Mexico, yeah. A lot of hot, spicy food in Mexico, but not in Honduras, not in Nicaragua, not in Costa Rica, not in Argentina, where we lived for 15 years. The best eating there, big old steak and potato. Wowee. And beef was cheaper than chicken there in Argentina. So we had a lot of beef. We enjoyed our 15 years in Argentina, other foods as well. But every nation is very different. Every nation has a different culture and mindset. Some of these countries fight each other, and there they are in a Bible class sitting next to each other, you know. And often they say one of the things that they realize that it's okay to be different and not be judgmental of people from another nation. We tend to want to judge others that aren't like ourselves. You know, none of you talk about them Yankees, do you? Well, I married one too. And I'm from the deep south, Florida, but it was really like Alabama, lower Alabama in Panhandle, Florida. And so we had some interesting conversations, and still do. It's the north and the south. But we're that way. What's different? We kind of, We don't need to be that way. We need to just appreciate each other. And they get an opportunity to do that. We also force that intentionally upon the students, because when they're in their fourth year, for 5 months, they go to another country. Not always, but about every one of them go to another country and do a 24/7 internship. That is, they're working with a church, have elders, leaders, and doing whatever they want them to do, but it's another country other than their own. And so that's yet another experience that they have in understanding other people's. And you know, when you do that, you see the world as God does. God loves us all the same. Right? He loves us all the same. In his mind, North Americans aren't better than Russians. They aren't. In his mind, he loves us all the same and wants us all to have access to his gospel, you know. Another question you might have. That's a great question, Bob.
I have another question, if you don't mind me being two in a row. There are some pictures of Dormont, and of course we support Dormont. We get reports, but we would be interested in your awareness of all that he's contributing to the overall dynamic of the churches in that region after having completed his degree, weekends program, you know, the fifth-year program. Because we get really good reports, and I think that you probably are aware of that. And I think we'd love hearing about anything about Jormar and Gloria briefly.
Really lovely couple and a child. I think it's just got one, but they'll probably have another one soon. Latin Americans love to have kids, and that's what makes Baxter really interesting. We have 30 families, and we've got 7 kids running around campus, and we become the surrogate grandparents for a lot of these kids because they're going to be able to go home, so it's difficult for them to get home. Sometimes they get home, but they like, and we like to be grandparents. Our grandchildren are in Arizona, and we see them once a year. Talking about counting the cost. That was a big one for us. But Jomar and Gloria, a sweet couple, they will come in and out of Baxter, not on a frequent basis. It's maybe once a year, twice a year we see them. I think they were there for our lectureship. We have a yearly lectureship. It's now in September, our annual lectureship. We had the best numbers, I think, in our 13 years there this last year. That's around 250 preachers and Christians from all over, basically Central America, because it's hard to travel long distances. And our students are from places like Colombia and Peru and Bolivia and that kind of thing. And so they're not likely to come in for a 3-day lectureship. But that was a wonderful experience there. That I know of their work. They're working well with the congregation. I think they've worked in, remind me of the town where they are. Is it not? La Paz, yeah, La Paz.
And they're helping Ashley out at Cerro Bueno.
Yeah. Ashley is a character. Let me tell you about Ashley. Ashley was a brother in Christ from Kansas, and he came down after Mitch. Mitch was a hurricane that destroyed the country of Honduras. Basically, all infrastructure collapsed. It was a hurricane that just sat over the top of Honduras and just for more than a week just destroyed roads and bridges and everything. Landslides everywhere there. And he came down and he was helping out in recovery. And so he had an eye on this apprentice we had there at Baxter at that time. And so they eventually were engaged and married and came back to the States. And they have returned to Honduras. They bought a coffee farm, and they will pay their workers double what they would get in some other coffee farm because it's really very little that they pay those workers in the coffee farms. And he has this program of 3 chicks in a bag. And so he gives away in a little plastic, Walmart kind of bag, He'll throw three chicks down in there and hand them off, but don't eat them, okay? Let them grow up and you'll have protein for a long time with the eggs that they'll produce. And so he's got that little program he's done. He has built a library on his coffee farm for the children and stocked it with books for them and trying to help them in their in the rural areas where he is. It's very, very backward as far as the educational possibilities for them, and very health-wise also pretty significant challenge there. We've sent our clinic staff to his area, and they've done one of these brigades where they'll see 150 people in a day, 200 people in a day in that area. Okay, let me show you a video here, and this is what's favorite in Argentina, yeah, and in Honduras. A lot of work, but this is, we are building a new soccer field for the students. The old soccer field was being demolished in that first section of this video. We demolished it to build this new one, soccer field. And we put AstroTurf on it, or artificial turf, I should say, on this. And they really do love this. And we had a tournament to inaugurate this soccer field, and a special day. And I was kind of like, so what? We got a new soccer field. No, we got to inaugurate the soccer field. So I said, okay, let's inaugurate the soccer field. Diane and I are the only 2 gringos on campus, so certain things we don't really understand as they do. And so we had a soccer tournament, and these are students and faculty members playing in the soccer tournament. It's below the clinic, out toward the road. It's to the, if you walk in toward the shack, it's to the left, down in a low area. Yeah, it is low, and it worked out perfect. Again, we're doing this trying to coordinate things. We're wanting to build a second married student complex. The goal is 100 students, and we're getting a lot of people wanting to apply to come to Baxter who are families, couples. And so we're trying to get this thing built. We've had a problem with paperwork. We were 13 months on the first build last year, and so now we're at 8 months on this second build, and I think we'll probably be 13 months in getting it done, but we'll get it done. We just have to be patient and persevere in that, and having our court up. So where the old soccer court was is where the building will go. That's why we had to demolish the old one and put in a new one down below. On the back of this brochure, some of you still have one right there close to you. You see the graduating class for this year, but you see off to the right, off to the left there, a couple and their 2 boys. And this is interesting. This is like a first for us, at least in our time at Baxter. The father is in school. He's in his mid-40s. And the son, who is a 17, 18-year-old, who graduated from high school, is in Baxter too. You have to have a high school education to get into Baxter. And so both of them are studying together. Now my wife will ask the difficult question that the president doesn't even ask. And so she walks up to the son and said, okay, you're both in classes, right? Who's making the better grades, you or your dad? And the son said, I am, because dad has not been in school for 20 plus years since he got out of high school back in a few years earlier. So but that's a unique kind of a thing. It is not unusual to have a father, the son of a father who was a Baxter graduate, now in school with us, and that's always it's neat to see. Generations coming back to Baxter to study there in the program. Okay, let's do our next one. You'll like this one. This might spur some questions on you.
My name is Eric Trigestad. I am president and CEO
Turn it up,
of
please.
Christian Chronicle. That's a newspaper for Churches of Christ. It's based in Oklahoma City. I'm also a deacon of the Memorial Road Church of Christ. But the reason that I'm here right now is I'm actually on a mission trip with my 17-year-old daughter and her classmates from Oklahoma Christian Academy. They're building houses and getting to know some of the local folks here in Honduras. Well, I've come to Baxter a few times. I've known about the Institute since I started working at the Christian Chronicle because it has such a reputation across Latin America. And every time I come here, I'm so impressed by the students and their dedication to their teaching and their desire to go in to the rest of the Spanish-speaking world to spread the good news. I always find incredible stories every time I come here about people who have really sacrificed in order to be here, to learn more about God, and to learn how to effectively share His message with the rest of the Spanish-speaking world. Christianity is always on the move. That's something that I've learned in 20 plus years of working for the Christian Chronicle. And when I come to the Baxter Institute, I see students who have come here from all over the world who want to go out into all of the world. So we really see coming to fruition the Great Commission, to go out and make disciples of all nations. When we look at the way that Christianity has changed in the last 2,000 years, we've come to a point now where the majority of Christianity on planet Earth is Spanish speaking. And that really says something about the importance of the work that you guys are doing here at the Baxter Institute. It is Spanish speakers reaching out to other Spanish speakers. The church has shifted. It's always on the move. And right now it's really moving here in Central and South America. And Baxter is right at the heart of where the kingdom is growing. And I think that's important.
That spur a question from anybody? Yeah.
Years ago, in the U.S., door-to-door, knocking doors was a great way of evangelizing. And that's kind of gone by the wayside for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
What's the main way to evangelize in Latin America?
Depends on the country and the region. Central America, you still can do the door knocking. You don't do that down into South America. Door knocking doesn't work. It's more friendship evangelism through perhaps a conference or a seminar you might give that you would reach out to people. At least in Argentina, where we were, house to house did not work. The Jehovah's Witnesses and the Mormons still do it down in those regions, but at our efforts, it didn't seem to be a good method. We sent a team to Bolivia, and they were from Central America, so they were going to go door knocking. And so they come up to a door, and they would knock, and the woman would come to the door, and she would even look at them. She would hold her hand up to shield her face from them. And of course, that was culturally the situation that they were dealing with there. There was not a freedom of communication between strangers on that order. And of course, you're strangers there in that land. They did some street, they did a kind of a food fair there in Bolivia. And so they had food from different nations that they were having in this kind of a food fair. And they themselves were from Nicaragua, from El Salvador, from Bolivia, and was another Mexico. So they had in their mission team, and so they made prepared food from those different nations out on the street, and was giving it away and getting people interested in the different foods you could find in those countries, and that was kind of opening the door to talking to them and making a connect, and then working on a Bible study. It's kind of like the diaper church we have. Y'all know about the diaper church. Come on now, you know, I've told that story for certain. Diaper church. Well, I was here in April fundraising. I do 1 month in April and 1 month in mid-September, October. And I was we were in New York, in Rochester, New York. Nice little church up there that supports Baxter. And they had collected a bunch of diapers and going to hand them out, you know. I don't know what the event, Mother's Day I think it was, they were doing it for Mother's Day. So during COVID, stop me if you've heard the story. During COVID, it was shut down. It was strict shutdown in third world. Hospitals were collapsing. They would, in some countries, Ecuador especially, they had these big old garbage bags. They put their relatives who had died out on the street. And they would just pile up out there. I mean, it was terrible in the Latin American third world region during COVID. In Honduras, there were people lying outside the hospital, the teaching hospital, on cardboard, you know, and dying right there on the side of the street in front of the hospital. So everything was in lockdown, and they could not leave the campus. And they're from 13 different nations. The borders had shut down, in fact. Quickly they shut down during COVID, and so they were stuck on our campus. Our teachers were in lockdown in their homes. So we continued the school by Zoom. Teachers from their home did a Zoom class into the school. And it worked. Not the best, but it worked, you know. So there was a group of them on campus said, certainly you've heard this from me. They said, we want to make diapers, ecological diapers. And we've got sewing machine and you've got material down at the clinic. And that was material and sewing machines for the nutrition, the mothers who are in the nutrition program. We have them in a sewing class or a beautician class, teaching them a trade to help them get out of their poverty, you know. You have a malnourished child, it's because you're in poverty, generally speaking. Not always. But mothers weren't coming in anymore because everything was locked down. I said, okay, what are you going to do with this? We're going to evangelize. So they make 600 of these things. And they're really put together well. Had a kind of like, what'd you call it? Plastic pants, an insert. And they made, and they give them away in a bag of 3. And so, all right, now, the lockdown's up, Steve. Can we go back out into the areas and give away these diapers? I haven't told this story. I'm sorry. I've told it everywhere almost. But so I said, now, okay, you want to take these diapers and hand them out? Yeah. And so they go in the shadow of the National Cathedral, Suyapa, in Honduras. I mean, only 5 minutes from this big Catholic cathedral, and started handing them out. And the people said, "We don't know you, and you don't know us. Why are you giving us these diapers? Can we talk to you about Jesus?" So they had 2 baptisms, and they had 4 baptisms, and they're up to 50 baptisms. Well, in third world, yeah, and this is third world. They were even using a lot of disposable before COVID, but you know, when don't even have money for food, you're not going to spend it on disposable diapers. But this is a group of students. There's like 8 of them. Now there's the rest of the story to that. Not only did they have baptism, they started a church. So they eventually graduate. And they're doing that together, bonded them together in a special kind of way. And so they formed a team. It was one of the teams that I mentioned earlier that went to Colombia. And they're in Ibagué, that town in Colombia, and baptizing souls down there in Colombia. But off of that experience of working together. Now, there are individuals there from Colombia, from Mexico, and I think maybe El Salvador. So there's a mix of nations in that team working there. But diaper church, who would have thought it? Who would have thought? God did. I mean, it's just amazing that and these young adults who are creative, wanting to get into the lives of people and share the gospel with them. Yeah, and they built a wood slat church building behind the guard's house. The guard is the one that asked them to come into his neighborhood because there's no Church of Christ out there, and see if they could start one, and they sure enough did. Now rewind to 1971. I went to the mission field on a mission team. And how did that happen? My roommate said, "Hey, go with me out to this church and let's preach together." So we rotate Sundays out. Refuge, which is out in the middle of cotton fields in West Tennessee. Excuse me. My Benadryl has messed my mind up. I'm not really fluent today like I normally am. But we're out there, and it's 25 people out there. And the students, Freed Hardeman students, heard about this, and so they started coming with us. We had 50 students going out there on a Sunday, and everybody's doing something, leading, singing, preaching, teaching classes and everything. And off of that experience, 2-year experience, we became really close friends. And we said, let's do something beyond school. How about let's do a mission team? And so God was behind it all, and our team formed. There were 5 guys in this team. And we didn't know where we were going. We researched the countries in various places in the world and landed on Argentina. And we actually went there sight unseen. Would you do that? Diana and I went there sight unseen. We had a husband and wife and one team member, another team member who went down there and visited and came back and said, "Oh, we can do this." We said, "All right, let's do it." That's the boomer generation, very idealistic in that time. I wish I could keep talking, but thanks for your questions. Thank you for your support. I said this to one of the members. I said, every time you put money in that collection plate, part of that coming to us, coming to Baxter. Thank you. Thank you for that. It has a purpose, your contribution. every Sunday. Thank you. God bless you. God bless you.